In the days when people still listened more than they spoke, Amara lived in a small town where everyone knew the sound of their neighbor's footsteps. She was not rich, and she did not pretend to be. Each morning before the sun fully woke, she rose from her mat, washed her face with cold water, and tied her wrapper tightly. Her food stall stood at the edge of the market, where hungry workers passed before starting their day. Amara cooked with care, stirring her pots slowly as if patience itself was an ingredient. People trusted her food because she trusted her own hands. Yet life did not smile easily at her. Some days, customers were few, and her money barely covered the cost of tomorrow's cooking. Still, she greeted everyone kindly. When others complained, she listened. When children came without coins, she gave them small portions. Elders noticed her ways and nodded quietly. But kindness, my children, is like a lamp in the dark. It attracts warmth, yes, but it also attracts insects. Amara did not know that someone had begun to watch her closely. Not with love, but with measuring eyes. In the town, there lived a woman named Binta, whose smile was quick and whose words flowed like honey. She saw Amara's kindness and mistook it for weakness. From that moment, a slow path was set, one that would test trust, patience, and the true weight of friendship. Binta first approached Amara on a hot afternoon when the market dust hung thick in the air. She praised Amara's cooking loudly, making sure others heard. "Your hands are blessed," she said, smiling wide. Amara laughed shyly, unused to such open praise. Binta returned the next day, and the next, always friendly, always helpful. Soon, she began assisting at the stall washing plates, calling customers, keeping Amara company during long hours. To Amara, this felt like answered prayer. Loneliness can make the heart open its doors too quickly. Binta spoke often of hardship, of being misunderstood, of dreams delayed. Amara listened, believing shared pain meant shared honesty. At night, Amara would think of how life felt lighter with someone beside her. She began trusting Binta with small things, watching the stall, handling coins, greeting regulars. Binta performed well, or so it seemed. Yet behind her smile lived quiet counting. She watched who paid, who owed, who praised Amara. She memorized habits and weaknesses. Old man Sadiq, who sat near the market entrance each day, observed them both. He noticed how Binta's laughter sometimes came too late, how her eyes moved even when her face rested. But elders know that truth reveals itself in time. And so, he waited, while the seed of betrayal slowly pushed roots into soft ground. As weeks turned into months, trust grew deeper. Amara began sharing her worries with Binta after closing the stall. She spoke of debts, of her hope to expand the business, of fear that one bad season could ruin her. Binta nodded with concern, offering comfort and advice. "You are too kind for this world," she often said. Those words warmed Amara's heart. She believed kindness protected her. One evening, Amara revealed her biggest secret: she had saved money to buy a larger pot and rent a better stall space. It was her chance to rise. Binta listened closely, asking careful questions, pretending excitement. That night, while Amara slept peacefully, Binta lay awake, planning. Envy is quiet at first. It whispers instead of shouting. Soon, small things began to change. Coins went missing. Customers complained of forgotten orders. Binta always had explanations. The market was too busy. Someone must have taken it. Amara believed her. Why doubt a friend? Still, whispers began floating around the market. Some said Amara had become greedy. Others claimed her food portions had shrunk. Each rumor passed through Binta's mouth first, shaped softly, never sharp enough to accuse. Amara felt confused, yet she held on to trust, not knowing it was slowly being used against her. At trouble never arrives with drums. It comes quietly, like evening shade. Amara noticed customers no longer smiled as before. Some counted their change twice. Others walked away without greeting. When she asked Binta, the woman sighed deeply and said, "People talk. They envy success." Those words comforted Amara, even as fear settled in her chest. One afternoon, a woman accused Amara of cheating her. Voices rose. A small crowd gathered. Amara stood shaking, confused. Binta stepped forward, pretending to calm things down. She apologized on Amara's behalf, promising to talk to her later. That apology cut deeper than the accusation. That night, Amara cried quietly, wondering where she had failed. Binta sat beside her, offering sweet words while planting doubt. "You trust people too much," she said gently. "Even me." Amara laughed weakly, denying it. But seeds were being planted on both sides. Binta began telling others that Amara was careless with money, that she feared being exposed. Old man Sadiq noticed the shift. He saw how people's eyes followed Amara differently. He greeted her kindly, reminding her to stand firm. "Truth walks slowly," he said. "But it always arrives." Amara nodded, though she did not understand. Trust had become a heavy cloak, and she was too tired to remove it. Soon, the missing money grew worse. Amra's savings disappeared bit by bit. Each time she asked, Binta looked shocked and hurt. "Do you think I would steal from you?" she asked, tears shining. Amara apologized immediately. Guilt is powerful when mixed with kindness. Business declined further. Creditors knocked. The new pot remained a dream. Binta, meanwhile, began dressing better. She ate well. She laughed loudly in public. When asked, she claimed blessings had found her. Some nodded. Others wondered. One day, old man Sadiq called Amara aside. "Watch actions, not words," he warned. Amara hesitated. Doubt felt like betrayal. Yet that evening, she noticed something strange. A customer thanked Binta for helping him earlier, saying she warned him not to trust Amara fully. Binta denied it smoothly. "People twist words," she said. Amara wanted peace more than truth. That is how lies grow strong. Soon, a community meeting was called to discuss market complaints. Amara stood alone. Binta sat among the crowd. Voices accused. No one defended her. Her stall was suspended pending investigation. Amara returned home empty-handed, heart heavy. Binta followed later, offering sympathy. That night, under the moon's pale light, Amara finally felt something crack inside her, not anger, but clarity. With her stall closed, Amara stayed home, thinking deeply. Silence teaches lessons noise never can. She replayed moments, words, and looks she once ignored. Patterns appeared. She remembered old man Sadiq's warning. Slowly, she decided to watch instead of speak. Binta continued visiting, acting concerned, offering food and advice. Amara thanked her politely, no longer sharing secrets. Binta sensed distance and grew uneasy. She began making mistakes. She told different versions of the same story to different people. Old man Sadiq noticed and gently asked questions. At the next community gathering, contradictions surfaced. Binta grew defensive. Finally, proof appeared. A child revealed he saw Binta taking money from the stall weeks before. Faced with truth, Binta broke. Her tears were loud, her excuses many. The community felt shame. Amara did not shout. She simply spoke softly of trust and pain. Her calm carried weight. Binta was disgraced and left the town. Amara reopened her stall slowly, supported by those who learned too late. She became wiser, not bitter. Old man Sadiq smiled. "Trust is gold," he said, "but even gold must be tested by fire." And so, Amra's story became a lesson told under moonlight, reminding all who listen, not every smile is a blessing. As days passed, the losses continued, and peace left Amra's home. Creditors came knocking with hard voices and harder eyes. Her food supplies reduced, and she was forced to borrow. Binta encouraged her to take more loans, speaking as if she carried concern. "This storm will pass," she said, "but storms that do not pass are often being fed." Amara noticed Binta had begun buying new clothes and eating at other stalls after work. When asked, she laughed and said fortune had smiled on her. The community began murmuring louder now. Some claimed Amara mixed water into her soup. Others said she lied about prices. Each rumor traveled faster than truth. At a busy hour, a woman accused Amara of shortchanging her. Voices rose. Binta stepped forward quickly, calming the crowd, but her words carried hidden blame. "She has been stressed," Binta said. "Maybe she made a mistake." That sentence landed like a stone. Amara felt exposed and small. Old man Sadiq watched from his stool, his face unreadable. That evening, he greeted Amara kindly and told her, "The tree that bends too much will break." Amara nodded, tears pressing behind her eyes. She was beginning to understand, but understanding alone does not stop pain. The 8th chapter of Amra's trouble came with public shame. The market leaders called a meeting, saying too many complaints had been raised. Amara stood before them, her voice shaking as she tried to explain. Binta sat among the crowd, head bowed, looking sorrowful. When asked to speak, Binta sighed and said she loved Amara like a sister, but truth must be told. Her words were careful, polished, and damaging. She spoke of missing money, confused accounts, and careless mistakes, placing each blame gently at Amara's feet. The leaders nodded. The crowd murmured. Amara felt the ground move beneath her. No one asked her to defend herself further. Her stall was suspended for some days, until matters were clear. She returned home slowly, carrying an empty tray and a heavy heart. Binta followed later, offering comfort and food. "I had no choice," she said. "They forced me to speak." Amara listened without reply. That night, as the moon watched silently, Amara's sorrow turned into something firmer. Pain had sharpened her sight. She decided she would no longer explain herself to everyone. She would watch, wait, and let truth speak when it was ready. With the stall closed, Amara stayed home, sweeping, thinking, remembering. Silence became her teacher. She noticed how Binta still moved freely around the market, speaking with people who once greeted Amara warmly. She noticed how stories now changed depending on who told them. Amara began visiting Old Man Sadiq in the evenings. She did not accuse anyone. She only listened. The old man spoke of patience, of how lies grow bold before they fall. Slowly, Amara stopped sharing her plans. She hid what little money she had left. Binta sensed the distance and grew restless. She began telling different stories at different times, forgetting which version she had told before. One afternoon, a young boy approached Old Man Sadiq and spoke of seeing Binta take money from Amra's stall weeks earlier. The boy had been afraid to speak before. The elder thanked him and asked him to be patient. When the next community meeting was called, the boy spoke. Questions followed. Binta's answers tangled. Faces changed. The crowd grew quiet. For the first time, Amara was not the one trembling. Truth had entered the gathering without noise. The 10th chapter closed with exposure. Pressed by questions and witnesses, Binta's strength failed her. She cried loudly, accusing envy, hardship, and fate. But tears cannot wash away lies. The market leaders spoke firmly. The truth stood clear. Amara was cleared of wrongdoing. Shame moved through the crowd like wind. Some lowered their heads. Others apologized quietly. Binta was asked to leave the market and the town. She departed quickly, without farewell. Amara did not celebrate. She simply breathed again. With help from the elders, her stall reopened. Customers returned slowly, some bringing gifts, others bringing regret. Old Man Sadiq visited her stall one morning and ate quietly. When he finished, he said, "Trust is good, but wisdom must guide it." Amara nodded. She had learned the cost of blind faith. Though her heart still ached, it had grown stronger. The town remembered the lesson. And so, this chapter ends where understanding begins, for betrayal may wound deeply, but it also teaches the eyes to see clearly. When Amara returned fully to the market, her steps were careful, like someone walking on newly healed skin. People greeted her again, but not with the same careless joy as before. Trust, once broken, does not return in one morning. Amara accepted this quietly. She focused on her cooking, measuring every ingredient with care, as if rebuilding her life spoon by spoon. Some customers stayed longer to talk, asking gentle questions, offering apologies wrapped in smiles. Amara listened and forgave without making noise. "Forgiveness, my children, does not shout." Old Man Sadiq watched her closely. He saw how she no longer shared her heart freely, how she observed before believing. At night, Amara still remembered Binta's laughter and felt a dull ache. Betrayal does not leave clean wounds. Yet she refused to harden her spirit. She helped others again, but with boundaries firm like clay pots well fired by heat. The market slowly settled. Rumors faded. But stories do not end just because one person leaves town. The shadow of what happened lingered, teaching without speaking. And somewhere beyond the dusty road, Binta walked with a restless mind, carrying the weight of her own deeds, though she pretended not to feel it. Far from the market's noise, Binta struggled to find rest. Each town she entered welcomed her smile at first, but her ways soon followed her like dust. She told stories that made her a victim, twisting truth into shapes that pleased her ears. Yet peace avoided her. Meanwhile, Amara grew steadier. Her stall became known again, not just for good food, but for honesty tested by fire. People brought their children and said, "Learn from her." Amara felt humbled by these words. She remembered how quickly voices once turned against her. She began speaking to young women, warning them gently about trust. She did not mention Binta's name. Names fade, but lessons stay. Old man Sadiq often said, "A lie can travel far, but it always returns tired." One afternoon, news arrived that Binta had caused trouble in another market and was chased away. Some laughed. Amara did not. She felt only sadness. She understood now that some people destroy bridges not because they hate others, but because they cannot stand watching someone stand strong. That understanding softened her heart, even as it strengthened her resolve. Time passed, and with time came healing. Amara saved again, slowly, carefully. When she finally bought the larger pot she once dreamed of, she did so quietly. There was no announcement, no celebration. The joy was enough inside her chest. Customers noticed the change in her food and her calm confidence. Young traders sought her advice. She taught them to keep records, to watch closely, and to pray before trusting. The market leaders respected her voice now. One evening, a stranger arrived and sat near her stall. It was Binta, thinner, eyes dull, pride cracked. People whispered. Amara looked up and felt her heart pause. Binta begged to speak. They stood aside. Binta apologized, her voice low, stripped of sweetness. She spoke of regret and hunger. Amara listened without interruption. When Binta finished, silence stretched between them. Finally, Amara said, "I forgive you, but I cannot walk with you again." Those words were firm but gentle. Binta nodded, tears falling freely. Forgiveness does not always mean reunion. Sometimes it simply means release. After that day, the town spoke less of betrayal and more of wisdom. Parents told the story to children at night, warning them that not all friends come with clean hands. Amara's life found balance again. She laughed more easily, slept more deeply, and trusted her own judgment. Old man Sadiq, growing weaker with age, called her one evening. He praised her patience and strength. "Pain can either shrink you or shape you," he said. "You allowed it to shape you." Amara thanked him with tears. Soon after, the elder passed peacefully, and the town mourned him deeply. At his burial, Amara stood quietly, reflecting on all he had taught her without force or fear. She understood now that elders see far, because they have fallen many times. As seasons changed, the market thrived. New faces came. Old stories rested. Yet Amara never forgot. She carried her lesson gently, like a calabash of water, careful not to spill, careful not to forget its weight. And so, in the 15th turning of this tale, wisdom settled where innocence once lived alone. Amara remained kind, but she no longer confused kindness with blindness. She learned that trust must be earned slowly, like dawn pushing away night. When people praised her strength, she smiled and said nothing. Strength that speaks too loudly often hides weakness. The town grew better because one woman endured betrayal without becoming bitter. That is how true change works. Not with noise, but with example. When strangers asked about the scar in her eyes, she simply said life had taught her well. "My children, remember this. Those who misuse trust often think they have one, but they carry a heavier load than they know. And those who survive betrayal with their hearts intact become quiet teachers to the world." This story is not just about Amara or Binta. It is about all of us, walking daily between belief and caution. Listen well. The heart is precious. Guard it wisely. As life moved forward, Amara noticed how people now watched her differently. Not with suspicion, but with quiet respect. Respect is heavier than praise. It carries expectation. She understood this and carried herself with care. Each morning, she opened her stall with the same calm spirit, but her eyes missed nothing. She checked her supplies, counted her money, and trusted only what she could confirm. Some thought she had become too careful. Amara smiled and said nothing. Experience is a teacher that speaks softly but leaves deep marks. Young traders often gathered near her stall to listen as she spoke about patience and honesty. She never painted herself as perfect. She spoke of her mistakes openly, knowing truth heals faster when shared. At night, when the town slept, Amara sometimes remembered the days when laughter came easily and trust flowed freely. She allowed herself to feel the sadness, then released it. Pain that is ignored grows bitter, but pain that is faced becomes wisdom. The town itself seemed calmer, as if it had learned alongside her. Markets are not just places of trade. They are mirrors of human hearts. And Amra's heart, once bruised, now beat with steady strength. News travels strangely in small towns. One morning, travelers brought word that Binta had fallen ill in a distant place, alone and struggling. Some people shook their heads and said fate had spoken. Others whispered with pity. When Amara heard, she grew quiet. She did not rejoice, nor did she boast. She remembered the apology, the tears, the broken pride. That night, Amara sat outside under the stars, thinking deeply. The elder's voice echoed in her mind, reminding her that bitterness poisons only the cup that holds it. The next day, Amara prepared food and sent it with a traveler heading in Binta's direction. She attached no message, no name. Kindness does not need witnesses. When old man Sadiq's daughter asked her why she helped someone who hurt her, Amara replied gently, "Because I refuse to let her darkness steal my light." Those words spread quietly through the town. People began understanding that strength does not always wear anger. Sometimes it wears mercy. From that day, Amara felt lighter, as if a final chain had fallen from her heart. Seasons changed again, bringing new faces and fresh challenges. Amara expanded her stall carefully, hiring help but setting clear boundaries. She taught them honesty through action, not fear. Mistakes were corrected calmly, and trust was earned over time. The market thrived, and Amara became one of its pillars. Elders consulted her. Leaders listened. Still, she never forgot how quickly crowds can turn. During festivals, when drums echoed and laughter filled the air, Amara watched people closely. Joy and jealousy often danced together. She taught herself to celebrate quietly and remain grounded. One evening, she addressed a gathering of young women, speaking plainly about trust, envy, and self-worth. She warned them that not every helping hand is clean, and not every smiling face is kind. Her words were simple, but they settled deep. Parents thanked her. Some cried. Stories like hers live longer than the people in them. They become warnings, lessons, and shields. Amara knew this now. She accepted her role not as a victim, but as a witness. A witness to how betrayal wounds, and how wisdom heals. Years passed, and Amra's hair showed threads of silver. Children who once ate freely from her stall now returned as adults, greeting her with respect. The market had grown, but its heart remained the same. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, Amara sat alone, reflecting on her journey. She realized that trust had returned to her life, but in a different form. It was no longer blind or rushed. It was slow, tested, and strong. She smiled at this truth. Loss had taught her discernment, and discernment had protected her peace. Sometimes, she heard people still mention Binta's name in whispers. Amara no longer felt pain at the sound. Time had done its work. Forgiveness had completed the rest. She understood now that betrayal does not define the betrayed. It reveals the betrayer. That understanding freed her completely. As night fell, Amara whispered a quiet prayer of thanks not for the pain, but for the growth it forced upon her. Wisdom, after all, is often born from wounds we never asked for. In the 20th chapter of this tale, the town itself seemed to breathe differently. Harmony returned, shaped by memory and care. Amara continued her work, content and steady. When strangers asked how she became so wise, she laughed softly and said life had taught her well. She never glorified suffering, but she did not deny its lessons. Old man Sadiq's words lived on through her actions, through the way she listened before speaking and trusted without surrendering herself. Children gathered around her stall not just for food, but for stories. She told them gently that trust is like a clay pot, useful, beautiful, but fragile if handled carelessly. She taught them to value themselves enough to choose wisely who they let close. The town prospered, not because pain disappeared, but because people learned from it. And Amara, once broken by betrayal, now stood as proof that the heart can be wounded and still remain kind. That is the quiet victory few talk about, but many need to see. In the 21st season of this story, Amara understood something many never learn. Life does not test us to destroy us, but to show us what lives inside our hearts. She had been tested by trust, by loss, and by silence. Each test left a mark, yet none took away her humanity. She still greeted strangers warmly, but she listened more carefully now. She observed how people treated others, not just how they treated her. That became her measure. In the evenings, she taught young traders how to protect their work and their peace. She told them that kindness should never require self-destruction. Her words carried weight because they came from lived truth. The market had become safer, not because people were perfect, but because awareness had grown. Amara watched this change with quiet pride. She did not see herself as special. She only saw herself as someone who survived without turning cold. That, my children, is rare. When pain knocks, many harden their hearts to feel nothing again. Amara chose to feel, to learn, and to continue. And in that choice, she became stronger than those who tried to break her. One rainy afternoon, as water tapped gently on zinc roofs, Amara sat alone and reflected on how easily trust once flowed from her lips. She remembered her younger self, open and hopeful, unaware of how envy hides behind smiles. She did not mock that younger woman. Instead, she honored her courage. Innocence is not foolishness. It is belief before experience. Amara understood that growth does not mean erasing who you were, but refining who you become. She still believed in good, but she now asked questions. She still helped others, but she kept her footing firm. When the rain stopped, people returned to the market, and laughter rose again. Amara smiled softly. Life continued, as it always does. Pain becomes memory, and memory becomes wisdom. She served food, shared advice, and listened. And in listening, she often heard echoes of her own journey in the stories of others. Betrayal wears many faces, but healing follows similar paths. That truth settled deeply in her spirit, giving her peace that no apology could buy. As years moved gently forward, Amara's story spread beyond the town. Travelers spoke of a woman who had been betrayed yet remained whole. Some came to meet her, expecting bitterness. They found calm instead. This surprised them. Amara told them that holding anger is like carrying firewood on your head while blaming the sun for the heat. She laughed when she said it, but her eyes held truth. Many listened closely. Some changed. Some did not. That was no longer her concern. She had learned that teaching is offering, not forcing. One evening, a young woman asked her how to know whom to trust. Amara answered simply, watch how they act when they gain power over small things. That advice stayed with many. The market quieted as night fell. Amara closed her stall and walked home slowly, content. Her steps were steady, her mind clear. Betrayal had once shaken her, but it no longer defined her. Wisdom had taken its place, strong and unshaken. In the 24th chapter of this tale, Amara became what elders call a resting tree. People sat near her for shade, not because she demanded it, but because peace followed her. She never claimed perfection. She only shared lessons earned through pain. Children listened closely when she spoke, sensing truth without needing explanation. Parents trusted her words. The market thrived not just with trade, but with understanding. Conflicts still arose, as they always will, but they ended faster now. People remembered Amara's story and paused before acting wrongly. That is how stories protect communities. One quiet night, Amara dreamed of Old Man Sadiq smiling. She woke with gratitude in her heart. The lessons he planted had grown fully now. She whispered thanks into the darkness. Some teachers leave behind books. Others leave behind lives, shaped by example. Amara understood that she was now both student and teacher, and she carried that responsibility gently, knowing wisdom should never weigh too heavy on the soul. This, my children, is where the story rests. Not with noise, not with victory songs, but with understanding. Amara lived long, served well, and trusted wisely. She did not let betrayal steal her kindness, nor did she allow kindness to blind her again. That balance became her strength. When people spoke of her, they spoke of resilience, not revenge. They spoke of wisdom, not wounds. And when new stories of trust and betrayal arose, elders pointed and said, remember Amara, for every generation must learn this truth anew. Trust is precious, and those who misuse it reveal themselves in time. Guard your heart, but do not close it. Learn, but do not harden. That is the way of peace. And so the tale ends, not as a warning alone, but as a guide. May those who hear it walk more carefully, love more wisely, and choose their companions with open eyes and steady hearts.